Hi everyone, and welcome back to this channel in the month of June of 2026. Here I go by yanakalai.com. You can check my website yanakalai.com, and here we're building the momentum for the hologram, for the platform for the Ashram. Okay, Ashram for Marines. This is from the Ashtar Galactic Domain and Andromeda, the Christos star family. They are hosting this ascension with the dragon luminaries here. Okay, so yeah, and here were the star seeds. Okay, to fulfill the Palarian covenant. We are on Christos mission. Okay, and we are here helping with the transition to the next octave, and helping my soul group star seeds who ended up in those black apps, helping them with their rehabilitation of their hologram, of their consciousness, of their DNA. Okay, so welcome. Very thankful, grateful to those who are kind of still staying here and who are watching it and kind of being patient with all this. It's been, like I'd say, a very long, arduous, even painful journey, but here we are, continuing. How important it is, the persistency and then the continuation. That's the Ashtar. Telling me all the time, like the Pleiadians, the Ashtar Galactic Domain, and so on. So you have to keep going, moving, right? We're going forward. The ascension in those higher planes already happened, and this is all sprinkling down here. I know, moment by moment, fractal by fractal, day by day, and so on. And things are happening, right? And we are also transmuting the astral plane here. We are working multidimensional, so we're also transmuting the universal shadow, right? This is a galactic project here, because we've been dealing here. We're in this kind of a galactic war kind of scenario, okay, where the dark forces, right, are still kind of fighting for their power positions, but the solar dragons are here, the solar rishis and everything, their entire network, their hologram, because of the transharmonic universe, so it means it's all accessible. The rishi consciousness, rishi resha consciousness, the cosmic energies are here transpiring, right? And it is what it is. We are ascending, the entire galaxy is ascending, the planet, the stars, the universe, right? There's a cosmic ascension here happening. So again, welcome. And it's SEMPER FIDELIS, SEMPER FIDELIS, SPIRITUS SANCTUS, Christos, SOPHIA, Maria, Magdalena, FATIMA. So we are revamping the entire MC Marine Corps. This is what was shown to me back then, more than 10 years ago, driving from Phoenix to Sedona in Arizona, right? So we, instead of worshiping the Black Madonna and the Baphomet network and this whole witchcrafting and the whole black magic and the lunar forces, and I see those black women, the black witches there. There are starseeds, but they're the dark side. In that Orion group, Chimera group, on the moon, Mars, those planetary corporations, I see them because I was abducted, right, by them, by the Orion group or Chimera group, by the dark forces and so on, and all this hybridization happening, implantation of alien implants. They take out my nadi structure, being a yogini, right? So I'm sure they enjoyed the technology from solar rishis. But this is all going to divine justice, and justice will be served, right? This is Satya Sai Baba. ASATOMA, GAMAYA, TAMASO, JYOTIR, GAMAYA, MRITYOR, AMRITAM, GAMAYA. Please lead us from untruth to truth. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from mortality into eternal life. Okay, so like I said, this is all going to divine justice. We've been also working with the violet flame of transformation, transmutation, and we're going back to Holy Mother, Divine Mother, right? So this is Ave Maria, Rosa Mystica, Ora pro nobis, right? Gratia. So there's some Latin version because that's what they've been using, you know, so-called the language of the dead, because we're dealing with the dark cabal, you know, the death culture, the Black Sun operation, the Belial Sun, the Belial group. Those are the hybrid Anunnaki merged with the Draco, so the Orion group, together with the Chimera group, right? That's the Black Dragon map, CCP China, DARPA, right? So this is all interconnected, the entire dark web. So reading things energetically from that morphogenetic field, this is what we came here to do, because yeah, it can be very, very confusing, right? But I understand here in this physical plane is very everything is very deceiving, and you know, somebody had to bring the consciousness of the solar rishis here, so we can finally put things back into order, into the emerald order, emerald covenant, cosmic sovereign law. Okay, and here we're implementing the galactic codex. So it means know your rights for ascension, for abundance, meeting your soul family, star family, galactic family, now with the disclosure happening, right? Even via the movie from Spielberg, full disclosure. And time to also be free and happy, right? Resurrecting the true law, the Constitution of 1776. It means aligning with the law of one, understanding the universal laws, right? That's how it will teach us, leads us to what really love is, how to live in a society of purity, of balance, of innocence, of equality, and so on, and of Christos consciousness, right? So Yeshua, guardian Yeshua also is in charge. You know, he's helping us with this whole ascension and putting things into balance and into you know, kind of, well, the resurrection mode, because we're going through extreme purging, and talk about gratification, being great, how grateful and thankful it's important to be in the state of grace and peace, and being simple and humble. This is how we get through being like children, right? That's we enter the heaven realm, the seven higher realm of Andromeda. They're hosting this ascension. So I have other, you know, this is Maria de Guadalupe, Virgin of Guadalupe, right? So again, instead of these dark forces, right, all this witchcrafting, black magic, sodomy, right, the desecrating, you know, our sexual energies, desecrating our spine, our kundalini, they're desecrating the nadi structure, which is the blueprint of your central nervous system, desecrating the cerebrospinal fluids, desecrating the skull, so the skull and bones kind of club, right? All these ventricles, spinal gland, pituitary gland, amygdala, targeting, right, directed energy weapons into amygdala, into hippocampus, and all these very powerful, beautiful structures in your brain, you know, and of course the medulla oblongata, they can also chip you there, right? And so on. And, you know, this is how they creating dark avatars out of Marines, out of my soul group, right? Instead of being Christos avatars, being the spiritual warrior, right? Those guys ended up in those black ops, you know, under the Babylonian Empire, Draco, tyranny, terrorism, right? In terrorist organization, in Hydra, on Tifa, right? And then they're wreaking havoc, whether in the Middle East or across the globe, but it's direct programming. It's through alien implants. They've been SRA, satanic ritual abuse. They've been mind controlled. They've been tortured, right? And they're full of alien implants, and they're under the thought adjuster of the 10D draconian measurements, right? That's the 10 dimension, that was the Sephiroth, or that was the Kabbalah, the tree of death, or the black tree of life, and so on. Those are the hybrid Anunnaki, Nazi, Pleiadian, Draco faction that, you know, I'm dealing with, right? The hybrid, those are the hybrid bloodlines, right? Like the Red Shield, the here people Rothschild, and so on, right? That they're so-called in charge, in power, because they were stealing the Solomon codes, right? The Solomon seal was broken, and we talk about it in our previous video. So this is very dramatic, and is a very, very sophisticated, complicated history. This is a cosmic galactic earth history that we're dealing with the Orion, with the Orion Lyran wars, the galactic wars that are now transpiring, right? And we're coming here into that 0 point divine neutrality where things have to be faced at the real value, so we can transform, transmute, and exit, right, this computer simulation, this artificial intelligence, this matrix run by AI of those archons, right? And we can finally breathe and feel free and create our own hologram, live in communities with peace, harmony, balance, unity, yeah, Christos, Sophia consciousness, and remember who we truly are, right? Because humanity, we're already designed, 5-star humans with potential of 12 strands of DNA. So we're just pretty much reminding right, others, or activating their heart, activating their DNA to remind them, of their true potential, okay, what they're capable of, and all their psychic abilities and their gifts and talents. Unfortunately, this is all these gifted children, so many of them were taken out and put in these horrible projects and just kind of totally destroyed. So, and I'm working here in a project for military, for DARPA, for HYDRA, for Marines, right, for my soul group, or for the elite, or for the echelon, right? So some of them are of that the Rose lineages, King Arthur, Celtic Druid lineages, right? And they're Rosicrucians, they're Pleiadians, okay, they're also of the Soul of Christ, Archangel Michael, and of that Melchizedek order, right, Magic Grail King lineages, and even of that Salmon. So you read all that, right? And then they were cloned, all this cloning happening, and splicing our DNA and our DNA RNA technology, and then creating dark avatars or AI hybrids out of us, right? So, and with the hybridization, with the Zetas, with the Greys, and so on, because all the treaties, everything's been overtaken, everything's been broken, right? Last time we talked about how the covenant with Salmon was broken, right? So you can study that article. This is from Anna Merkaba, and so on. So it is very it's transpiring, it's very complex. That's why we need informed consent, and we need the disclosure, full disclosure, and the information is very important. I'm a shadow worker, so it means I have to talk about the dark side, because not only just love and light and everything is great and peace and so on, because when we understand the darkness, somebody has to be the master of the underworld, okay, the queen of the underworld, the Persephone kind of goddess kind of energies, because that's how you get the wisdom, how you can teach, how you can heal, and you can help others, okay? So, and remember, we live here in both worlds here, the dark and light, that actually kind of is with the way it was created. They're complementing each other, but unfortunately it's all been polarized, it's been hijacked, and it's been inverted, right? There's all this transhumanism, transgenderism. That's why all these massacres, Magic Grail Kings, the massacres, Lemurian massacre, Atlantean massacre, Holocaust, right? So we have to finally stop, end that cycle, right, of all these horrible things and crimes, and we have to find peace within, and reconcile. The reconciliation, how important it is, and it's also through love, through self-love, through healing, through forgiveness, right? Yeah, through forgiveness and being the compassionate witness, compassion. I have something here from Vietnam. I hope I can show it to you guys. Let me see. This is such a beautiful picture of Kuan Yin. Okay, the goddess energy, divine energy. Okay, last time I was showing you a couple of videos back. That was Buddha, right, from Vietnam, with actually the cosmic wheel of life, eternal life, and it was turned into so-called swastika, Nazi, because they perverted the teachings of Buddhism, of Hinduism, right, of Shiva, of Shakti, of Vishnu, of Ganesh, of Brahma, and so on. So we are resurrecting these beautiful energies. We are compassionate witnessing, right? We are Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion, okay, because this is the way to go. And today for the star seeds, I decided to read. We need to reclaim our Christos body. We need to reclaim our mission. And because, you know, like I said, horrible agendas, horrible things that have been done, what to humanity and to star seeds and to my cell group, especially also in the military, right, in those military covered operations, black ops, psyops, and so on, the way, you know, however you want to call it. And we need to bring it back into the truth, into the right perspectives, into balance. Like I said, balancing ourselves, right? The divine feminine, divine masculine. So I have a project here for DARPA, right? And this is the Sophia star, okay? Balancing these energies of the divine masculine, right? With the true Merkaba divine feminine, with that 0 point divine neutrality, right? You know, that's kind of the soul with the solar consciousness. That's, we can enter the solar consciousness, the Christ consciousness, Christos Sophia consciousness. That's how we can reunite, we can reconnect, we can reconcile and live in peace, harmony. Okay, so we're bringing the peace on earth. Okay, shalom, shalom, shalom. Because so many of us, we're of that Hebrew, Melchizedek, and even Hindu lineages. Okay, and like I said, everything's been really distorted, perverted, and upside down. We've been here in artificial reality. And of course, time to like I said, the divine union is also, that's what means the HIEROS GAMOS, right? Because that's how humanity, you know, or we were here designed, right? Not only divine feminine, masculine, that is here within us, the energies, you know, of our bodies, doesn't matter whether you're female or, you know, you're masculine, you're feminine, but also, you know, like as a pair, as a divine couple, right? Being on a Christos mission here and mastering, you know, ourselves, and the mastering the relationship, right? First from within, and then of course we can then enjoy a beautiful relationship with somebody else in the horizontal external world. Okay, so first the vertical, that's why so much of that inner work, transformational work, meditation has to happen. And yeah, we are resurrecting the rose line lineages that have been captured, and you know, the Rosicrucians and so on, in those black ops, dark projects, then created dark there became dark avatars here and so on. So they need rehabilitation. Okay, so let's go into the reclamation of our Christos body. Again, this is for star seeds. This is, like I said, you know, this is not for everyone, the indigo warriors here. And so, you know, we only resurrecting our light body, right, is very energy oriented, energy work. It's metaphysical, right? It's galactic, it's cosmic, it's interstellar. Okay, and it is saying us that these negative entities, right, with their agenda, they can create overlays of perception, overlays of identity. So this is the means of the alien mind control, which has been discussed fervently many times before. But controlling perceptions of identity, what can control the consciousness of the identity, and eventually through subversion of the original identity, possess the being's body and mind to become subservient to an agenda that is neither organic nor natural to the soul. So that's why they do those dark rituals, black mass, right? SRA, so they put you in such a state of trauma-based mind control, and with the directed energy weapons, and with that black goo, CCP jabs, right? CCP jabs, with the camera effect, they're keeping those highly advanced souls in extremely low frequency vibration. Their consciousness overtaken by that rogue AI, or the AI of the archons, right? And that's how those guys then become black magicians working for DARPA or for the elite, right? If they're in Hydra, and yeah, they're Pleiadians. Okay, so that's why the Pleiadian Covenant detecting these souls in extremely dark projects, and there's a damage of their bioneurology, right? Damage of their consciousness, their Kundalini that's been perverted, and it's been reversed, right? The sodomy, the practicing sodomy in the red rooms there, the whole red mattresses, red trident. I mean, watching porn and all this stuff, and it's anti-love, anti-Christ, anti-human. Okay. So, but we are able to change, alter, and adjust refracted light patterns through the compassionate witnessing of these patterns, thereby applying pure love through our spiritual body consciousness to remove harmful frequency devices. Okay, so again, that's self-love, tapping, right? K27, acupuncture, breath work, yoga poses, especially the child pose, right? Going back to that kind of motherly womb creation, you know, living simply, this humility, right? Simple, humble, honest, modest. How these frequencies are coming back online, and this is how we'll heal our heart, and we can heal ourselves, heal our DNA, because too much carbon-based DNA, all these 666 seals, implants, tracking devices, and so on, right? Directed energy weapons, psychotronic weapons, scalar weapons, and so on, right? Damaging the DNA. I mean, they can take your DNA, you know, splice it, and so on, right? And then insert it with the AI DNA. Okay. So when we apply consciousness with intent, when we apply change in the frequency structure, we direct it throughout our bodies. We can remove, alter, and clear artificial refractions of structures that impact our personal hologram. The HIEROS GAMOS system, right? So HIEROS GAMOS, like we talk about, you know, it's in Lisa Renee Energetic Synthesis, is designed as a road map to reclaim the Christos body. Okay, the risen Christ through sacred marriage, right? Trinity, Namaste, divine masculine merging with divine feminine. Here in that 0 point, divine neutrality, your higher heart, right? Sacred heart. Here, threefold founder flame. Fleur de lis, right? Here, Namaste. So about the divinity that is within you, the divinity that is within me, bind to the divinity that is within you. Okay, so we're all equal. In Lokesh is in Lakesh. So this is with the Trinity of HIEROS GAMOS through the removal of artificial, dead, inorganic, refracted light holograms that have been used to enslave and torment the human race for thousands of years. This is entirely possible. However, most of us will need mental discipline, right? That's mental discipline, mental balancing, or emotional stability, re-education to remember our original language and a context to apply frequency alterations, listening to solfeggio tones with the crystal and Christ consciousness intent. Okay, so here that's why my YouTube channel, and this is the hologram platform, right, for star seeds in those black ops and so on, reminding them who they truly are, so they can start reading the energies, right, start remembering who they are. And I know they need to heal their pain body. There are 12 practices of self-awareness. So time to be aware instead of all this direct programming, the voice to skull technology, brain-to-brain interfaces, right? Where they didn't even have the time, they didn't have a chance, opportunity to really find out who they are or raise their frequency vibration. My experience, right? I look like a Marine. I was supposed to be a Marine, and so on. Probably, yeah, DARPA, done by DARPA, and all this CCP. Secret space program abductions, and on Moon, Mars, right? There are actually lots of Americans. Colonies, and was a breakaway civilizations, the Nazi, because I had the bloodline, right, and so on. But somebody had to stay here and figure this out, right? Inspect everything, analyze everything, and bring into some kind of, into project, into some kind of wholeness, into some kind of into some kind of coherence here. Okay, talk teachings and guidelines. Okay, and there's a lots of material. I know it can be lots of complex, and what's the word for it? It's just too much, right? And so I'm just trying to, day by day, think about how to build the momentum, the potency, remembering who we truly are, and then the chanting and the Sanskrit and so on, positive affirmations, right? We can do all that, right? Start healing ourselves, right? from the inside out, right? Healing the environment, like being in a nice environment, how important it is, right? And loving ourselves unconditionally, the forgiveness, how the forgiveness is so important, right? I talk about the violet flame of transformation, transmutation. Thank you, Saint Germain and Ganesh, right? Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. So, so these are the energies, the deities that I am working with, or they've been helping me. The Pleiadians, the Rosicrucians, also the avian Saint Germain, right? The avians, and of course solar rishis. I have Satya Sai Baba, Matavar Babaji, Paramsa Yogananda, right? His book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, and so on. And of course the energies of Holy Mother, Divine Mother, Mother Mary's been helping me, and the compassion, how important it is, right? Be the compassionate witness. So here's this beautiful paintings, of Quan Minh, as from Vietnam. Okay. So let me see. I'll start reading again. I start reading the Reclaiming Christos body. So the source code or unity intelligence field is a crystal star. So we talk about the crystal star, the star of Azov, right? Crystal star of Azov. Christos consciousness have access through the merging of manifested bodies holding Trinity wave. So from the bi-wave frequency, right? That's let me see. Do I have this? The flower of death, right? So you have to be careful with the geometry because there's all been hijacked. Right, all this fragmentation, right? From that fragmentation by wave frequency, we need to go into eternal life, tri-wave, through the tri-wave frequency, okay? Holy Mother, Holy Father, and the inner child being reborn, okay? So, and of course, the karma, from karma, we're going back to dharma. You can study actually all that on the essential glossary, okay? The wheel of dharma, okay? So, so holding the Trinity wave formats that connect directly into eternal source light or Godhead. The three sound wave tone parts, when merged into internal energetic balance, become one component with access directly into the feedback loop, exchanging with the eternal source supply. This exchange with the Godhead is the principle of Christos, an inner, sustained, eternal source light which signals the end of vampirism, consumptive modeling on planet. Okay, so all these, they're taking our energies, right? Those guys, they're just batteries, okay? And so then they're put to death or put to prison, right? And they're being cloned and so on, and they're dark avatars, okay? So this is what it means by Godhead cannot be reached by anything but the Christos consciousness, crystal star tones, Karaya Sata Allah, right? Here, Karaya Sata Allah. And you can, right? Is it? This is the crystal tone, the 7 tones of creation. Karaya Sata Allah, Karaya Sata Allah, Karaya Sata Allah. Very important, okay? This is the Crystal Ages diamond breastplate example. Okay, actually it's, I know it's very sophisticated and so on, but this is what helped me with my resurrection, with my healing and, with the transition and exiting the black goo, the dark AI, that matrix, right? And so on, and just being kind of where I am right now, helping others with a project, okay? Yes, and I have family and I have hybrid children, so. Okay, so, and so crystal star tones, although this process of unifying consciousness with the Godhead is known by different names. So the Christos architecture, the crystal spiral, galactic science, we already talked about it, is that which allows the synchronic phasing of inner, outer, and between currents of energy to be inhale and exhale, circulating the eternal life spark of creation throughout the entire organism. This Trinity principle is the original holographic architecture of the microcosm to macrocosm in planetary, human, and all of universal creation. Our bodies and souls were not created by reptilian, Anunnaki, or other ET false father gods. We were modified and hybridized to suit their various domination agendas through hybridization, right? So the Christos template is designed as a unity form of embodiment. Thus, all architecture patterns and the 12D code must be embodied, right? The 12D shielding, 12D code must be embodied. That's the platinum light as a trinity way to return the Christos to the earth. The original source code of one component cannot work without the other. 3 parts unified together. Hence, we have existed on 3D earth in a separate state governed by the tyranny of the false father gods, only allowed to experience within a partial component of the entirety of our existence, right? So that's the matrix, right? All this thought adjuster, working from 8 till 5, paying taxes, paying bills, right? We're not allowed to really reconnect with our soul, right? Poison in the food, GMO, chemtrails, and sky actually extremely poisoned today. So the Holy Mother, Holy Father, and the Holy Son, or Christos, are all one as the Godhead. However, the Mother principle is not the Father principle nor the Son. There is an energy matrix comprised of frequency that is a Trinity wave tone. This tone is interdimensional. That's why we have to enter it via meditation, the inner work, and also a part of the core substance of our universal matrix. Up until recently, this planetary consciousness was separated from the merge between all of its creational components. And now that our mother principle, right, the 13th pillar, the mother arc, is accessible, it's here with the transharmonic portals, okay? The mother principle component has returned to this planet, to this existence, to this reality. This is the unique process and massive transformation and ascending group of human being as potential planetary Christos consciousness. Many of us as starseeds are the essential blueprint prototypes to embody this source code energy into the physical realm. And we have begun the alchemical process to become the house where Christos dwells. So the spring equinox already was, right? But we have the summer solstice coming, will activate this inner Christos embodiment potential for more of us in the starseed family. This cycle will be a rebirth for the masculine principle. So like I said, accepting, especially in the military, right, all this bastardization or desecration of divine feminine, right, these guys need to turn back to their true divine origin. Some of them are Cathars, Rosicrucians, Pleiadians, devotion, dedication to Holy Mother, Divine Mother. How that important is turning within, right, remembering who we are, loving ourselves unconditionally, right, the forgiveness is important, the compassion, right, detach. I'm in this world, but not of it, Yeshua said. Know that the kingdom of heaven is within, right? Know yourself and be free. How important these phases, right? Those phrases in the Bible, how important it is, how we need to constantly be reminded of, right? So finally, it kicks in more and more, like building the potency, right? Building the momentum and so on. So we can finally break through and see the light coming above us, embellishing us, right? Circling around us. And we can finally, reconnect and reconciliate and find peace within. So we'll continue next time. Many blessings and namaste. Bye-bye.